All right, after a brief break, we are back. The Pat's Interference Podcast, member of the ebullient, eccentric, ecumenical, look it up, CLNS Media Network. It is Tuesday evening. I am delighted to be joined again by Dan Pizzuta, NFL analyst and writer, who's got some work upcoming at Yahoo. I am arguably even more delighted to just speak about Drake Maye and Josh Allen. For I don't know how we're going to go along, Dan. I've decided not to set times on myself because I always betray them and anyone listening who bothers to listen. Oh, this will be a short episode. I'm by myself. I went for 35 minutes like a maniac in his mother-in-law's basement last week. That was the last time people heard and saw from me. Anyway, I believe in us. I also believe we're going to hit on some Patriots Pro Bowl candidates and go through who deserves to be there, who will actually make it, because those will be decided next week. But just really quickly, because this is the news of the day, and you don't get news like this very often. There's a grandfather who has signed on to play quarterback for an NFL team at the expense of his Hall of Fame candidacy, which I believe probably Phillip Rivers would have gotten in, if not this year, certainly next year. No. He says, I can wait. Let me go buck up and play for the Colts. Just your immediate reaction to everything that's gone on with a guy who I didn't forget about. You don't forget about Phillip Rivers, but has been in the background of NFL football now for 4 years because he's been out of the league.
Yeah, so this feels like a terrible idea that I'm very excited for.
Yes.
Yep. I mean, so the thing is with Phillip Rivers, like he was playing like a 44-year-old quarterback, like when he was playing, right? So it's not as if he was some guy who was using his athletic ability to be running around. I looked it up last night when kind of the rumors of this were happening. His last year in Indianapolis, he averaged 2.39 seconds to throw, which is kind of like in that late stage Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers thing, where if you are throwing that quickly, you're throwing that quickly because pressure is just impossible to get in that amount of time. And I think Phillip Rivers can throw like a corner route pinpoint accuracy, like when he's 80 years old. So I think there are going to be things that he's going to be able to do. The fact that I'm very quickly talking myself into this working. The fact that he's only going to have to do it for like 4 or 5 games is much better than if a 44-year-old had to do it for, 17 games, which I think we've kind of seen from like Aaron Rodgers. You can't really sustain for that long. I'm going to watch. Like the Colts are now more interesting to me today than they were yesterday. So I don't know. I think it can be fun.
100%. I'm rooting for it as well. And you know what I love about this, and we're going to get to the Patriots in a second, everyone getting antsy and a little upset. Like the tweets that followed about why this might be a good idea, he's actually in better shape than he was the last time he played NFL football. I don't know what to do with that. Is that a bad commentary on past Phillip Rivers? Is this good for Grandpa Phillip Rivers, who again is only 44, has grandchildren right now? There was another report about him running the same offense that he ran with the Colts in his last season, but now coaching one of his son's high school football teams. Like, oh, he's up to speed. What? I can't imagine foisting an NFL offense upon a high school team. Anyway, setting all that aside, there's, of course, a chance, granted a much smaller chance now, that the Patriots do see the Colts in the playoffs, which I think every Patriots fan would welcome with open arms and wrap their arms around Grandpa, saying, yes, please come to Foxborough. The last time you did this, we waxed you at the end of your prime, and the Chargers bowled them over and route to another Super Bowl. And this, of course, would be a much different ballgame against the Colts. Anyway, enough about the Colts. The Patriots in the Pro Bowl. Interesting year, right? Like they're 11-2. Most 11-2 teams, you would say, give them 5, give them 6. Like they're going to be at the top. And I look at this year's list, and let's start with the guys who will make this. So this includes 1/3 of the vote is from fans. 1/3 is from coaches. 1/3 is from players. So there's some unpredictability here from the fans. But this we know. With less than a week to go, this is going to be announced next Monday at some point. There are several Patriots at the top 10 of their positions by fan vote. So they at least lead in the 1/3. I'm going to list them off right now, and then we'll talk about whomever you want from this list. Drake Maye, Hunter Henry, Garrett Bradbury, Harold Landry, Marcus Jones, Jalen Hawkins, Andy Borregales, Brendan Schooler, and don't pretend like you've been following him the entire season, Julian Ashby, the long snapper. Those are 9 players at the top 10 of their positions. Not many of them are at the tip top, but Drake Maye leads everybody. It's just kind of an interesting dynamic where a third of that list is special teamers, and this is an 11-2 team clearly powered by the quarterback.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we sit with the Patriots, which just kind of shows you what the quarterback has been able to do and why he is the one sure Pro Bowler on this team. Obviously he's leading the fan vote. He's going to be the guy that is definitely on the list. And after that, I think it's kind of tough just because of, I mean, I know New England's going to love the special teams guys, and I think there are probably going to be players and coaches around the league who just like New England special teamers. So if a Brendan Schuler makes it, like, I wouldn't be surprised. But the other like big players that you're looking at, like, it's interesting because, Diggs kind of has a case, but wide receiver is also kind of stacked up at the top where you have to kind of break into the top 6, right? I think six are going to make it.
Yeah.
And I think they're not doing like AFC, NFC this year. So in some cases that helps, some it doesn't. So he's going to be a borderline. Henry is probably going to be a borderline around there too. The one, so there are a couple guys who are not on that list who I thought could have a chance.
Well, let's do the projection on the fan vote first, because this is a short list for me about guys who I think will make it, and we'll do the deserving conversation after. And I'll give you the 2 obvious ones from that list where I think people go, okay, yeah, I could see it. Marcus Jones, who, first of all, has been done dirty by whomever drew up the fan vote online for the Pro Bowl, because look, he's made his money and his name this season on the 2 punt return touchdowns that he's had, which have been spectacular. When you go to return specialist, and obviously he's not a specialist, he plays corner, he is all the way at the bottom, and they use his kick return average, which is how they sort all of the returners. The man doesn't return kicks, so you have to go all the way down to the bottom to the best returner in the NFL, who shockingly is not in the top 10, because you have to scroll all the way to the bottom just to find him. He is, however, top 6 in corners, and that is partly because he's one of 6 players in the entire league with 3 picks, a sack, and 50-plus tackles. Not a shutdown corner, but incredibly useful. I think whether it's because I don't know how they would combine the votes or separate them. Bottom line is, I do think Marcus Jones gets in there somehow. I mean, he's just made too many highlight plays. Even if you aren't watching the Patriots, you've seen Marcus Jones and know he's done rare things this year.
Yeah, he would be my one guy to make it. I think when the official list comes out, he's probably more likely going to be a returner, because again, cornerback is just it's a tough position, especially for a slot corner. And the Pro Bowl, and we were kind of talking before this about how dumb some of the Pro Bowl things. Like you mentioned, one of the dumbest things is how on the NFL page, when you go to vote, just kind of the way it's listed, like everyone else is like by yards and things. You can vote for 6 fullbacks. I don't know what we're really doing with this vote. That whole entire thing needs to be changed. So since there's not like a slot corner place on this team, I think he probably does get bumped down a little bit when it comes to actually putting out the roster for corner. But for a returner, I think he's definitely going to be on the roster in that way. And then he'll get to participate in everything. But I think officially he'll probably be the returner.
Yes. And of course, he doesn't want to participate because he would rather be in the Super Bowl. And Super Bowl week is when these Pro Bowl games of, hide and go seek and maybe flag football are going to be played. The fullback thing makes me laugh because A, it's funny, but B, I'm thinking now, like if Kyle Juszczyk wasn't in the top 10, I think he's top 10 overall. He's very, very high up. And I don't know if it's because his wife makes all these bejeweled jackets that are famous and delightful. Like, he has to think, why are there so many third-party candidates stealing votes away from me? If he wasn't at the tip top, like, why am I surrounded by Ralph Nader fullbacks? This is nonsense. I am the clear-cut candidate. There should be me, the one other fullback everybody knows in the league. Pick one of us. We'll move on. Instead, we have 6 fullback votes. Look, Drake Maye, we skipped over him because we're going to talk about him later. Here are the numbers in case you just haven't looked. 71.5% completion percentage leads the league. 23 touchdowns, 6 picks. He's first in completion percentage over expected, second in EPA per play. Pick your stat, metric, whatever it is, as long as it's not sack rate. He's near the top in the best possible way. So we're agreed on 2. Does your list end at 2?
For the guys that were listed, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And this is who you think will make it ultimately at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. Who did I not list?
So did you list Christian Gonzalez? Because I think he has a chance to make it as a corner. Looking at, a lot, I think not a lot of people are going to be looking at like advanced cornerback stats because there's not really good ones, and kind of like I pull some just myself to have them. And he's in like the 30 range in adjusted yards allowed per coverage snap, which is just yards allowed per coverage snap and adjust for touchdowns and interceptions. But when you kind of look at what he has to do now, covering number one wide receivers more often. I think Aaron Schatz at FTN put up some coverage DVOA, and he was at like 43%. He's covering the number one receiver, which is something the Patriots have done more often this year. So I think because of the difficulty of what he's doing, I think his reputation around the league from, I think, other players and coaches would help him get in. So if there's a top six, I think he has a chance to be a Pro Bowler. I think would be a worthy player too, of the guys who I think should make it and aren't necessarily on that list right now.
Yeah, I struggle with Christian Gonzalez because I was at least texting with, and I think I talked about this with Mike Giardi, that he's certainly not been all-pro. He's not been as good as he was last year when he was all-pro second team, which is both a thing and unofficially not really a thing. But Pro Bowl, like, the tough part is the fan vote, where you see he's not top 10 in corner voting. It doesn't mean he's not a top 10 corner in the league. Clearly, obviously, he is. No one here is disputing that. But when you have the raw box score stats as 0 picks so far this season, and we all know why not a lot of teams are targeting him, that's hard to sway the fan vote. So if you've not lost a third of the vote, but he has so much catching up to do in the player and coach categories, and they know better than fans, they know better than me. I just also think about the coaches are going, he gave up a touchdown to Mitchell Tinsley in that Bengals game and a couple of things here and there, which is not a totally fair representation. But let me tell you, the coaches are not studying film for their Pro Bowl votes. They're studying film for their next game. All of which is to say, I left him off because I just think between the injury, the lack of box score stats, there's too much ground to make up, even though those numbers are there. But I would completely understand and not be surprised if he does make it. The last player I had in my list, because I don't think, again, unless there's a Julian Ashby Hive out there that I've missed, and Brendan Schooler, again, talk about box score stats, maybe the name carries him, and he's the only one who is top 5 on that list in his position, aside from Drake Maye, and this last player who I do think ultimately is going to make it in. Hunter Henry, who is 5th in voting right now, and is going to face a Bills defense that's bottom half of the league against tight ends by DVOA. Again, shout out our guy, Aaron Schatz. He's top 10 in receiving yards and touchdowns for tight ends. This, I think, is like the Oscar for the 60-whatever-year-old actor who's been nominated a bunch of times, and you kind of get one at the end. It's a career achievement Pro Bowl for Hunter Henry. He's never made one, but he's been fantasy relevant. He's not overtaken Kelsey, McBride, Brock Bowers, Tyler Warren. So I think he gets that 5th or 6th spot where it's like him. George Kittle's been hurt. George Kittle's always hurt. And Jake Ferguson. I think with the winning and the upcoming games that he's got, I think Hunter Henry will get there. He's my 3rd and final pick for I think will make it from the Patriots.
Yeah, and what was interesting, because it was tough, because I'm not sure exactly what they're doing with the team this year, because I was looking at last year's team, and you can vote for 6 tight ends, but they only named 4 to the initial team last year. So it would be hard for me to fit Henry in as a top 4 tight end. But if it is something that is going to be extended, I would, he'd obviously be a top, 6, top 8 tight end. So he's one of those guys that is on the edge. But if they're extending it a little bit, he definitely has a case. What he's been able to do this year, just kind of been that piece that's in the middle of the field. He's top 8 in yards per route run among tight ends. So he has definitely been doing well. And especially, in the red zone, being that type of threat that has helped, that they really needed to be in the middle of the field for that offense. I think he would be deserving. It wouldn't be one of those things where if he was named, I would be surprised.
Yes, and I think too, you get a reputation. Again, you talk about teams that win and the things that come with winning. It's stuff like this. Like Ty goes the guy who's on the 11-2 team and is productive. Like that goes without saying. You're top 5 in these stats and 8th by yards per route run. He's 4th in contested catches, or 5th in contested catches among tight ends, 4th in first down conversions. Like the number shallow, deep, or obscure all point to a good tight end, because that's what he is. And he might finish with a career year. So I just think, the benefit and the spotlight and the Drake Maye, maybe rub off, is a better word there than rub off. But the point is, I do think he gets there. The more interesting conversation, if you want to get into the nitty gritty, and we forgot to mention Sam Laporta, but obviously he's included from the Lions. Who deserves to be there? Like, we just projected what we think the people will do. What would Dan Pizzuta do? Like, Lord of the Pro Bowl, your team is the team.
Yeah, so I mean, Gonzalez would be that guy for me. I think he does deserve to be there. So deserve is tricky. Like, so Milton Williams, I'm gonna just throw him out there as a guy who was definitely on the track to be there if he was healthy. Like, that would clearly a Pro Bowl season from him if he was able to be on the field. A guy I'm going to just kind of talk about who has a fringe case, and because of how the Pro Bowl does things where defensive ends and offensive linebackers are different, K'Lavon Chaisson has been having an incredible season. And because outside linebackers are different than defensive ends in this voting and in the roster, for some reason, it's dumb. They should all be edge players. Right. Don't know why we still do this. It's 2025. We know better. The way he's been playing as a pass rusher, he's top 10 among edges in pass rush win rate. Doesn't have as high amount of sacks, but I think you just kind of watch him every week and he's just doing good stuff on the defense. And I think he's just one of those guys that really has been an anchor of what this pass rush has been able to do. And when it has flashed, like, he has been a big piece of that. So he would be a guy that could probably a fringe candidate, but again, because of the wonky way that you vote positions in this for the Pro Bowl, I think he could have a case to be there.
So I laugh because at least once on this podcast, I have suspended myself from talking about K'Lavon Chaisson, who stole my heart in training camp. Dan, I allot myself one crush per training camp. He got it. And Khyiris Tonga was a close run-up, like your fallback option. And he came through, not for this discussion, but I like it. The counter to that would be just the run defense is a kind of walking invitation. Hit me in my direction, wherever he is, to the point they're now kind of hiding him. And sometimes it's taking him off the field on first down. Sometimes it's flipping from where he's typically to the offense's left, to move him to the offensive right, because you just see teams going back to September going, where's 44? We're going to run at him. Now, we all understand those passing snaps are more valuable than your 1st and 10 in the first or second quarter, which goes for every player in all teams. But I like the sleeper case. Let's knock out a couple that I think people are going to bring up. One player you already did, Stefon Diggs. He only has 3 touchdowns this year. I don't have the deeper stats for you, and I know you could build a case around them. But the bottom line is when you're 26 in receiving yards, that speaks to both your, obviously, total volume of your impact over the course of the season, but also like where you are relative to the other players. And when you're that far away, it's just hard to make up that ground. And here's the biggest piece behind that number. His snap counts are down. They've been managing him all year for the postseason. And if it was for the Pro Bowl, he would have played a lot more. But the numbers just aren't there from a raw box score standpoint where, like, I can't put him ahead of, we don't even have to go to Jamar Chase, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is in this conversation. You go elsewhere in the AFC. Like, there are just so many receivers, especially young guys up and coming. Nico Collins, I'm watching dominate the Chiefs on Sunday night. Like, just all of these players. Stefon Diggs is off the table. Robert Spillane, on the flip side, his case is the box score case, right? Like, his numbers are on pace to be well over 100 tackles. He's got a couple of sacks. He's got he's got 1 sack. He's got 2 picks. He's got a forced fumble. He's a good run defender. And those stats are on pace to match what he did last year and the year before in Vegas, where the raw box score, boom, big thumbs up. I just don't think that's good enough for right now when you look across the league, specifically in coverage, to overtake guys that you just pencil in every year like Roquan Smith. Andy Borregales, great season. Surprising. Big kicks. All of his 50-yarders have been in the clutch, but more than half of the league's kickers have made longer field goals this year. And when you live and play in the era of maybe the greatest kickers to ever kick and live, Brandon Aubrey, and Cameron Dicker, the kicker, who, when you have a nickname, by the way, you talk about like tiebreakers. Dicker, the kicker, could just retire tomorrow. He's still winning the vote. Anyway, between the length, the volume, the percentage, more kickers are doing more than Andy Borregales. Very nice season. Here's the last one. Brendan Schooler. He's got a couple of penalties. He's well outside the top 10, top 12 in special teams tackles. That doesn't tell the story on special teams, where traditional stats do the least amount of talking and reflecting of what's actually going on. And I rewatch all the special team snaps, so don't dive deep into them. But my point is, it's just not his year. And if he gets in anyway, he's still a great coverage player, but it will be more on reputation, which he has earned, than it is this particular season, where past years you've seen him block kicks and create, negative losses on return. And that's all great and good. It hasn't been as much this year. And so I'm going to take those off the table. For me, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably with you there. Like, Schooler would be the guy that I wouldn't be surprised. It probably just would be like a reputation thing, which he's always going to be. He's never going to be bad on special teams. So it's just going to be probably just one of those things where players and coaches, like we've seen players like top 100 ballots too. Like, they don't put a lot of thought into this. They kind of like know who does what and kind of like rely on that. So I wouldn't be surprised, but yeah, everyone else you mentioned, Spillane, I think he's, with the interceptions, he's still kind of a liability in coverage. So I don't think like that's going to be, and we're just seeing some really good high level linebacker play too. So I wouldn't expect him. So yeah, the guys, and Diggs, like you said, he has a fringe case where I think if you expanded it a little more, he'd probably be in there. He's 12th in yards per route run. He's good, like targets per route rates. He's had a 21% target share, which is pretty good. But when you kind of look at the top guys that we are talking about at wide receiver, it is tough to fit him in there, especially if it's only going to be like a top 6.
Yeah. Schooler, by the way, who I said who I think will make it: May, Hunter Henry, and Marcus Jones. I'm close to on the fence about what the people will do, the players will do, the coaches will do. You can put him on there it's my list. I'll put him on there. Okay. I think 4 make it. I don't think he deserves it relative to some of the other players. Even Ben Skoranek watching Steelers-Ravens and just how much attention and how much he fights through the double teams. Brendan Schooler fights through double teams. I don't want to spend much more time on Brendan Schooler. The point is there are other players. The Diggs case is also going to be boosted now that you mention him. What do you do when everyone's watching, right? Like, that Sunday night game in week 5 was not just an arrival for Drake Maye and the Patriots on a big stage, beating a good team on the road, things they have not done for a very, very long time. It was Stephon Diggs sticking it to his old team and says, hey, I'm still here. And you know who's coming to town Sunday, right before the vote closes for the fans on Monday? His old team again. So maybe another big game kind of sways that case. I have one more under the radar that I want to run by you. And this surprised me even when I kind of was going through. I was like, maybe he does have a case. How much Mike Onwenu have you watched lately?
A little bit.
So here's the case, and it's probably shaky at best. He's 10th right now because this is where you have to default. Like, I'm not studying all right guards across the league. Don't have time. It's not going to help serve my readers, listeners, whatever. He's 10th by PFF grades among guards right now. He's 10th in pass blocking efficiency. He's had only 4 pressures allowed the last 4 games, and he's 5th among the PFF grades among AFC guards. For a guy who's 350 pounds-ish, I would still love to see a little bit more force and, hey, we're running it behind 71. The defense knows we're running it behind 71, and he clears space anyway, and I don't see that. But for a guy who's got enough of a name, and certainly the contract where players and coaches are well aware who Michael Onwenu is, if you've been watching his tape lately and you would love to fall victim to some recency bias, which I might be doing right here, a couple of beers with some O-line coaches, at the end of that conversation, I don't know. You might talk yourself into some Michael Onwenu with the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, he could potentially, be around there. I think it's also tough with guards. I mean, you're looking at right now 1.8% blown block rate, which is one of the higher rates or one of the better rates for guards. So yeah, I certainly would be in that conversation. But I think again, when you're probably getting 4 or 5 guards, yeah. Yeah.
Well, and they're big names, right? Like Quentin Nelson can just, where's the Pro Bowl this year? Okay, book my flight. Like, and it's not because Phillip Rivers,
and he deserves it. He also deserved it this year too, right?
Yes.
In past years, probably last year, not so much. This year, absolutely.
Yeah. Did we miss anyone? Because you know what? My list at the end ends up being shorter for the deserving. I'll say I think 4 make it for the Patriots. I think it's Drake Maye, Marcus Jones, Hunter Henry, and Brendan Schooler gets in more in reputation. Not that he's had a bad season, just not the same one he did last year. And I only think the first 3 of those really deserve to be there. May, Henry, and Marcus Jones.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same
Okay.
boat.
Cool. You ready to talk about quarterbacks?
Let's do it.
Okay. Here's the thing about quarterbacks. Just like every other player, in the NFL on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays. We're going to have Saturdays soon. You can find them as you watch all of these games on Prizepicks, which by now, if you've been listening to this podcast, you've heard me talk about Prizepicks a whole lot. Well, the reason I talk about Prizepicks is because it is the best place to win money while you watch sports anywhere. And this is the best time of year for sports. I'm talking bowl games. I'm talking basketball. There's a big cup tournament coming up, still going on. Playoff pushes in the NFL. And so while you're watching those games, you might as well pull up Prizepicks because Prizepicks has never been better. They now have early payouts. So let's say as you build your lineup, which you know by now, you do 2 to 6 players, you pick a stat. It could be Drake Maye passing yards, Josh Allen scrambling, rushing yards, touchdowns, whatever. And you go more than or you go less than. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you can now cash out your winnings before the game even finishes. That's it. It's over. You don't want to wait for the 4 o'clock games. You don't have to, but only at Prizepicks, where again, you pick 2 players, you pick 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. You find the stat associated with them, basketball, football, college. It doesn't matter. You go more than, you go less than, you lock in the lineup, and that's it. And here's the very best part. It's not even what I just told you about the new cash out feature. If you download the Prizepicks app today and use code CLNS, you will get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup with code CLNS. $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the Prizepicks app today. Prizepicks, it's good to be right. Okay. I want to start with a question I ask a lot of guests, and it's a variation of this. What are we not talking about enough? And in this case, it is Drake Maye and Josh Allen. The general discourse is around them. What are we missing about Drake? What are we missing about Josh?
I think when you kind of look at both of them together, we're looking at a lot of the highlight plays and some of the what was that throw? But I think a lot of it is kind of the down to down consistency that we have seen from both of them. And that was a thing from Josh Allen that has started to come like throughout his career. He was like a very boomer bust quarterback, even when he was playing super well, like 2-3 years ago. When Joe Brady came in, he kind of started to get the higher success rate stuff and figure out how to continually like stay ahead of the sticks, not have to put himself in 3rd and long and play that hero ball all the time. Drake Maye kind of had that last year as he started. He did not have a great situation, but I think we talked about it like after last year where Drake Maye was 2nd in success rate among the rookie quarterbacks. He was right behind Jaden Daniels. And while there was still a lot of ups and downs, he did a lot of the little things well that really made you think he was going to continue to do that. And right now he's 2nd in success rate among all quarterbacks this year. He's 2nd in EPA per play. He has a lot of that high leverage stuff that he's doing, but just knowing when to make the right play and just kind of controlling the offense in a way where he is able to just know where to go with the ball, make the right decision so often, which allows all of these other things to build off of that. I think that's where these 2 quarterbacks right now who have like kind of still the superhuman ability to do whatever, just from the down to down, what they're able to do, just keeping the offense on schedule with kind of their minds and their arm, I think is something that we don't talk about quite enough.
It's amazing to me that the deeper you get into some of these conversations, and granted, we just started. This is not particularly deep at all. But when you master the boring, which is kind of what you outlined there, and that's the reason we don't talk about this, right? What is Josh Allen's success rate? How often is he keeping his offense on schedule, right? Like this is a teacher taking their class out to recess. Do you get in? Do you get out? Are you ahead of schedule? Have you done your homework early? Good for you. Okay, the thing that gets your attention are the trophies you put in the trophy case, whether it's an MVP or you win the spelling bee, whatever it is. The point is, like, we all know they can do the spectacular with Josh Allen and now Drake Maye, who, look, I've anointed on this podcast long ago. But the point is, now you're trying to find out what's in between. And the glue of their games is exactly what you're talking about. For Allen, who, again, has reached a level a couple of years ago that I described as Belichick proof, because when they were detonating the Patriots' chances that year with Mac Jones in 2021, and they're back and they had a down year with Cam, they didn't punt in 2 games. And Belichick threw literally everything in the playbook at him. You had Christian Barmore dropping. You had man match coverage. You had zone blitzes. You had traditional man. You had regular zone. All of this stuff, none of it worked. And now with Josh, as that offense has evolved from being very Stephon Diggs-centric, the thing that stands out to me and is problematic now for the Patriots is that he's so adaptable in the way that we always talked about with Tom Brady. He can play it. Yes, it's the same offense. Okay. The terminology is the same, but the 2 tight end version, the spread attack, the play action heavy run game. Josh Allen is now in that part of his evolution where this is no longer a spread offense in Buffalo. They want to bulk up, run a lot of 6 linemen, multi tight end sets. They're excellent at running with James Cook, but they're also excellent running with Josh Allen. And it's not just as a scrambler. So for him to be able to play, empower, and orchestrate or teach all these different classes and keep them on schedule, it's just such a skill because he is allowing himself to evolve with the offense and not be stubborn in a way that I watched Jalen Hurts last night on Monday Night Football. And Troy Aikman must have called out 5 different plays where he's like, there's the check down. And there's Jalen not throwing the check down because he wants to go long. I thought that would always be Josh Allen. It was Josh Allen in 2019 and parts of 2020. It has not been Josh Allen for years, and that's maturity, and it's just really damn impressive.
Yeah, and I think it's one leaning on knowing the check down for a guy like Josh Allen and a little more Maye to an extent this year, where like the legs are also a check down,
Yes.
and knowing when to
Well put.
just to pull that trigger. So it's just kind of it just having the overall just ability to the awareness just to know what is needed in this certain situation. And for the Bills, as we'll to get into it, it's an offense right now that really needs that. Like Josh Allen has to be that guy kind of by necessity this year because there aren't the players winning down the field like they used to be. This is a very condensed, they're speed running the past couple years of like the Chiefs offense, where Patrick Mahomes really had to start just kind of throwing short, and the ADOT dropped a whole lot just because those downfield shots were not there quite as often. And I think we're kind of seeing that, like you see with Buffalo, when you're re-signing, Gabe Davis, like you're very desperate for doing something down the field. So it's, he's kind of had to live and learn a little bit out of necessity too. But the fact that he had been building up to that point over the past couple of years, kind of where he is right now. And this easily with this Buffalo team, especially with another quarterback, could have gone off the rails very easily, just based on some of the things that have been happening on the offensive line. Obviously, they do have a good run game they can kind of work on. Sometimes it's a lot more explosive than it can be successful sometimes. But the receivers just leave a lot to be desired, and he's just kind of making the most of it, which we're also seeing from Drake Maye, because I think even if you look at what Maye is working with right now, so much better than what it was last year. But if you're comparing receiving groups across the league, like you're really not jumping to take the Patriots over a lot of other teams, even though some of these guys are exciting and fun. But Maye is still getting the most of these guys too.
And that's the beauty of this game, right? Is like we can dive into all of the finer details and the analytics and the adjusted this and adjusted that. Whichever quarterback plays better on Sunday, like the simplest, stupidest analysis is going to win. Like that's what this is, because of how much Josh Allen is carrying the Bills and how much Drake Maye is powering everything about the Patriots. Even if I'm arguing, this was off air, but on the radio this morning about like the Patriots aren't reaching for a receiver in the first round. You've got enough good players instead of 3s and 4s, but 2s and 3s now. Their passing offense is elite, but it's mostly because of the quarterback. I just trust him more and more. The thing about Maye that I don't think we're talking about enough is how excellent he's been against disguise coverage. And this now gets me into, okay, if Drake Maye wins, okay, the Patriots win, they will win because Drake Maye won them the game Sunday against Buffalo, who's a good team, doesn't have a great defense, whatever. These numbers I'm about to give you, Dan, are insane. And they're courtesy of Sumer Sports. Drake Maye has faced disguise coverage on 35.2% of his passing attempts. His completion percentage is 5 points higher versus disguised, we want to fool you coverage, get you to throw an interception, than it is for the season, 76.5% to 71.5%. He is significantly more efficient with 10.3 yards per attempt against disguised coverage than he is overall, which is 8.8 yards per attempt. Not bad on its own, by the way. And he is not throwing those interceptions that teams are hoping, baiting, trying to fool him into. This 23-year-old who should be throwing picks. It's very normal. He has 1 pick against disguise coverage in 136 attempts this season. Those numbers should blow your mind, my mind, anyone who just heard me listen, list off those stats should pause and sit for a second, that when defenses are allowed to just give it their all in third and long and throw whatever they want out there and present one picture and go to another, it does not matter. That part is not just maturity and processing and smarts and IQ. It's all of them. And the kid is doing it. I can't call him a kid. He's 23, whatever, right now in real time. And that's as much as big of a part of his MVP case is anything.
Yeah. And I think it leans into one of the big things that he's really improved upon this year. And, a lot of most often this guy's coverage, usually teams now, especially in the Fangio meta, sitting in too high, will probably rotate to single high. When Drake Maye sees single high coverage this year, like he's just letting it rip. And, that is something I was looking up. I think I'm going to write about him this week and just kind of the stuff that he's been doing. So last year, negative 0.13 EPA per play and a 41% success rate against single high coverage. 0.23 and a 52.2% success rate this year with a 9.3 yard ADOT. So when he is seeing single coverage, he's letting it rip. And that has really played into some of the downfield success that we've seen from him. There's a trust there. Even when guys aren't separating, he knows he can put it in a place where the receiver can get to it. The defense is not going to be able to. So when he is ripping it like that, and the comfortability he has against those types of coverages, like that is, I think, one of the biggest things he's improved upon this year.
It's crazy. It's just, it's stupid. It shouldn't be possible. Like, this is Madden stuff and what is a very cliched way to describe it. But those numbers are preposterous. Now, this is important specific to Buffalo because I've asked Josh McDaniels this question more times than he would never wants to hear this again. Why can't you throw more touchdowns and interceptions against Sean McDermott's Bills? Like, this goes back to Tom Brady, who had 3 touchdowns and 4 picks, it was 4 and 5 in his last games against Buffalo. And a large part of that is just guys. Like, their talent has improved. And you go back to 2021, we all know Drake Maye is a much different player than rookie Mac Jones. I get it. But this is a December game, a rematch after the Patriots win in primetime in Buffalo. There are high stakes, division crown, just as it was 4 years ago. That day in Foxborough, Mac Jones went 14 of 32 for 145 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 picks. That was someone who had already played, at least studied for, didn't throw against that Buffalo defense that does so well with the disguise. Because that's the answer to my question about why the Patriots can't throw more touchdowns and picks against Buffalo, or hadn't until Drake Maye. Actually, no, that still stands because he threw 0 touchdowns and 0 picks in that win. But the point is, the fact that he can decipher and handle that generally speaks very well to this matchup, even though historically Brady, Cam Newton, Mac Jones, as we just detailed, have struggled with this simple but effective disguise that Buffalo is running. And McDaniels has explained it by saying, look, some teams you can know because they screw up the bigger picture. Others, you look at one defender who's out of place and you know what it is and the disguise is broken. They don't do that. And that to me is specific to Sunday, but obviously also the season.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things about Buffalo that really it does make them, even though they don't have, Christian Benford's really good, but they've been able to kind of mix and match some corners and still play decent pass coverage, is because they don't really major in anything. Like, this is not a team that's going to run out. And even if they disguise their coverage, it's not like the coverage is just going to be cover 3. They run a little bit of everything. They can sit in 2. They're going to run some cover 3. They're going to run quarters. They're going to run cover 6. It's going to be a lot of different things. So it is always changing the picture, which is why they've kind of been able to get away with some things on the outside. I think when we kind of look at, for this game and what we were kind of talking about with both Maye and Allen, I think the middle of the field is going to be very important for both of these because linebackers are susceptible to giving up some plays and coverage on both sides. So whether it's going to be, finding Hunter Henry, like we talked about, Josh Allen finding either, Kincaid or Khalil Shakir, I think like that middle of the field, because as much as we just, look at Buffalo for a second, like Matt Milano has been one of the best coverage linebackers in the league throughout his career. He is right now, I'm looking 88th among 90 linebackers that I have right now looking at yards per coverage snap for at the position. So he's slowed down a little bit. You know, they play heavier. Shaq Thompson has been incredible somehow for Buffalo. So they're finding some ways, but I do think that's probably going to be the most susceptible place and the weakness of this passing defense that New England can probably just kind of feast on a little bit if they want to.
And the way they did it in week 5 was just hammer the Bills again and again with play action. It was north of 40%. And they just did this against, it wasn't the Giants who they played the week before, the Jets. And I think it was closer to 50%, or at least 45. Anyway, point is, like, that's how the Patriots have come to exploit the middle of the field. It's just the most basic, simple, fake, and get you to approach it. The issue for them is, of course, they can't run the ball. Get you to approach the run and then obviously throw it behind the linebackers. How Buffalo manages that is going to be a really interesting battleground. But setting that aside, and what will obviously be important, I'm really glad you brought up Christian Benford, because let's say, again, Drake Maye powers Buffalo to a win. It's because he sifts through the skies. He knows where to go with the ball and protects it. Christian Benford posted a shutout shadowing Jamar Chase last weekend. I don't know if any player will ever do that to Jamar Chase again for the rest of his career. If I'm the Bills, understanding what you just said about the importance of the middle of the field and understanding what Stephon Diggs, which was terribly apart in his return to Buffalo back in week 5, I might consider a third down shadow or even a full-time shadow with Diggs, who's primarily going to operate from the slot. And at that point, circling back to May, if the Patriots do win, it's because he's comfortable playing matchup ball and going Benford on Diggs. I love Steph. Maybe we'll get him an easy bubble touch just to honor it and keep you honest. But aside from that, we're going elsewhere, baby, because I've got mismatches, and I'm not going to force the ball, which is something else he's done really, really well this year. 2 catches for Diggs in their last game, or I'm mixing up my games. The point is, the Bengals, that was the game, which is just looming large in my mind. Well, heavy play action, and Diggs didn't really touch the ball. 2 catches. That was the exact game. The fact he's done it before gives me confidence he'll do it again Sunday.
Yeah, and one that kind of plays back into not having the Stephon Diggs Pro Bowl case, because the Patriots are comfortable moving away from that. And because they are, it has helped them win games. And I think when you look at the Buffalo's corners, Tre'Davious White has played well. And again, I think that's been helpful because of some of the things they do on the outside, although they're playing a little more man coverage than you kind of would expect. Teron Johnson has been one of the best slot corners, throughout his career. A little up and down, like he is gettable this year. So I think that could be a potential, even if Diggs is moved into the slot, that's not a Benford place where he moves in. I think that's a potential plus matchup. They also have Maxwell Harrison, who was their first round pick. And he's a super speed guy.
Yeah.
Not really great at like playing corner, which it's my least favorite type of player for like corner and wide receiver. If you're just fast, but don't like know how to play the position, it's not okay for me. Or when he's going to show some highlights, like playing against Xavier Worthy, because they're 2 of the same guys, because they both run fast and don't really exactly know what they're doing out there. Yeah. So there's going to be some good plays on each side. So if you can have a matchup at Diggs, maybe on Harrison, or even get a booty, I think like that is going to be the place where you can probably get a very good type of mismatch, because if you are running a double move or even just kind of breaking off a vertical stem, that's probably where you can get them, because I don't think they have the guys who are going to be able to hold up for as long as they are, whether it's play action or not on the outside in coverage.
Let's flip to Josh Allen and why and how he would carry the Bills to win Sunday. The Bills, by the way, favored by 1 or 1.5, depending on your sports book, which surprised me when I read it, and the more I thought about it and read my film notes from week 5, which is a long time ago, and both these teams are different. I get it. And it's not just because DVOA and, a lot of these other deeper numbers, which power Vegas, by the way, who has their own, set of analytics, like the Bills more than the Patriots. If the Bills win Sunday, it will be because of Josh Allen, and it will be because Josh Allen was patient and he scrambled very well to hurt their man coverage. Because throwing the ball against man coverage, it's not great. Here are the numbers against cover 1, which is not all man coverage, but it's the most common man coverage call. 62% completion percentage, 744 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks, comes out to 7.4 yards per attempt, which is pretty good, but the rest of the numbers, not great. The Patriots sensed that in their original matchup because they played man coverage on 43% of passing snaps, one of their highest rates of the season. They also did not get a whole lot of pass rush. And the combination of those things, a lot of man coverage and very little pass rush, I had their pressure rate about 22.5%. We know everyone has different pressure numbers, is not a recipe for success now that you're down Milton Williams, who led you with 3 pressures in that game, even if you're rested and coming off the bye. So to me, Josh Allen will see that, whether he's scrambling or understanding he will have time against the front that has just kind of waned and been banged up this year. Even despite those numbers, he's just too smart. There's no answer. Just like May, this is a pick your poison proposition. And I think the Patriots have to pick a little bit of a different poison, even if Carlton Davis and Christian Gonzalez looked awesome against the Giants, just because you have to get to Allen more than you did in the first game and you'll be toast.
Yeah, and that's really the only way you can kind of get to Josh Allen is kind of hope one of his crazy try to make a play like turns into a negative.
Yeah.
Because other than that, I think you kind of have to play in a way that does make him do some of the boring stuff and hope he does get bored. And that was a way to beat Allen earlier in his career. And it's kind of what we talked about up top. And one of the things that he's gotten so much better at is he will sit and play that way. He's had multiple games this year where he's, deep into the third, fourth quarter and his ADOT has been like 3 something. And it's been very frustrating because the offense hasn't been great. But that's kind of just been what he's been presented with. And he is more likely to play to the defense this year, especially because he's not getting a lot of help elsewhere, especially when the offense hasn't been at full health, when you haven't had Kincaid at some points. So I think it is just, you got to play to a point where you're going to make him have that, 3-4 ADOT type game. And even if he is kind of just throwing these short passes to the middle of the field, I think that's probably how you have to try to make him beat himself and either get bored or you just let them dink and dunk down the field and try to turn it into a longer game in that way.
And in this case, which started out with how and why would Josh Allen carry the Bills to a win on Sunday, it's that the Patriots have the right idea, which again, I wouldn't deviate much from what they did in week 5, but your personnel is different. You do have to tweak things. And he just beats it, which is what all the best quarterbacks do. You can have the right idea and some decent enough execution, but whether it's through their accuracy or playmaking or pre-snap adjustments and calls and audibles, they get you anyway, because that's how good they are. Speaking of how good they are, and if Josh Allen is patient versus man coverage and scrambles again, it's going to be a long day. Will Drake Maye ever be better than Josh Allen? And before you answer, because I can already feel the strain in your face, here is the bar. It's not just that Josh Allen was an MVP last year, though he was. It's not just that he's a 3-time Pro Bowler. It's that he has annually been a top 5 quarterback now for 5 straight seasons, inarguably. And during that time, he's not just been one of the 5 best quarterbacks. He has finished top 5 in MVP voting 4 times, including a 2nd place finish, or 3rd place finish, the win, of course, and once in 5th place. That is the bar. Will Drake Maye ever be better than a 1-time MVP who might win another, who's top 5 in MVP voting almost every year of his prime, and is always considered a top 5 quarterback once he got to that prime every single season?
Yeah, I mean, better is a tough bar because, like, what is the better? I think like
doesn't have to be a big margin; can just be a little bit.
So yeah, I think Drake Maye has the potential to be in the Mahomes, Allen, Lamar tier where we are, or Burrow too, where we're talking about them as like the guys. And if you have that guy, you're going to be okay. And that is the type of quarterback that can you just drag whatever team or whatever offense. And we're kind of seeing it with May already. Like, this is not a great offense. Like, structurally, it's definitely better than it was last year. He has significantly better coaching on the offense. I think like the offensive scheme is better. We're still not, running with great offensive personnel for the most part. So like, this is a Drake Maye centric offense that is still one of the better units in the league. Drake Maye has been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league. So when you look at where, Josh Allen was in year 2, Drake Maye's well ahead of that. And, development is not linear. So we're not going to say that like Drake Maye is going to get significantly better than this, but even if he just sustains like this level of what he is right now, he's going to be one of those, like pantheon guys where you're sitting in there and we're talking about him as the best of the best. And the Patriots are going to be in a good position because he is the quarterback.
So was that a yes?
Sure. Yes. Yes. At some point, Drake Maye will be better than Josh Allen.
I love the nuance and I appreciate it. And I understand I put you in a takey position for someone who is as rooted in numbers and reason as anyone that I discuss football with or read and consume it, which is why you're on the show all the time, because you got such good information and I like talking with you. But at some point, we just have to say yes or no. And I will tell you in answering my own question, the answer is yes. Because the most difficult point on Josh Allen's resume that I just listed off of all the wonderful, incredible things, and I left off plenty, and we could just go on highlights and eye test if you want. Vibes. I don't think anyone has better vibes, even peak Mahomes. Everyone's looking at Josh Allen being like, that's football. If you had to introduce football to an alien, the player you would pick is Josh Allen. The game you would show would probably be that game against the Bengals in the snow with the comeback, the 40-yard touchdown run, the pinpoint passes, all of it, or something similar. The point is, the hardest point that he had to achieve in that resume was an MVP. Drake Maye might do that in 2 months. And here's the reason why. His completion percentage over expected, so his accuracy, the best metric we have for accuracy, is higher right now than Josh Allen's has ever been in a single season, as is his completion percentage, raw number for the same measuring of the accuracy. His 8.8 yards per attempt is higher than Josh Allen's has ever been. Maye is not the scrambler or the runner, obviously, which is hugely valuable in short yardage. This is not just like, oh, Josh Allen's bigger and stronger, and that's cool. No. His career success rate as a runner is north of 60%. The best offenses in the league are happy going home with 52 or 53%. Josh Allen on his own is a 60% success rate runner. Maye is at 40%, and he takes way, way more sacks that will affect him more as a smaller human being than Josh Allen did. Since Josh Allen's rookie year, and Drake Maye, by the way, is at north at 9% sack rate. So again, all the passing dropbacks, how often are you being sacked? It's almost 1 out of every 10. Josh Allen has not been over 8% since his rookie year, and he's only been over 6% sack rate just once since his second season. All of which is to say, it's not that Drake Maye, the passer, is there. That's all that matters. Sack avoidance is a huge part of quarterback play in the modern era and probably always has been. And he is way behind Josh Allen there, and he will never be the runner that Josh Allen is. But the fact that he's already there as a passer, Dan, holy shit. It's just, and I get the schedule and all of this. We don't have to go back and kind of take down the case piece by piece. I said it last week. The development curve that we've seen from Drake Maye as a quarterback is unlike any I've ever seen. And if you're already on the precipice of an MVP, and he could give this away, he could lose it, absolutely. I can't tell that player, no, you'll never be better than the guy that you were compared to before the draft and are now compared to and have already outplayed in your second season. He's a one of one and headed to whatever is above that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree. Like it's been the development here has been super fun to watch, and it was not a given what we saw last year. And I think there was a lot of good last year. Like I said, number 2 in success rate among the rookies last year. He was, well above, the Caleb and Bo Nix last year. So it was not a given that it would just click like this for him. And the fact that it has in year 2, where it was not, a significant amount of help given to him. And again, I'm going to show like much better situation than it was last year. But this isn't, we're not walking around. This isn't like the Vikings where, we thought anyone could go into that situation and be good, which apparently is also not correct. But this is not a situation where anyone would have been able to succeed. And the fact that he's done it in the way he has been incredibly fun.
And I want to be clear. Josh Allen has a lot of pelts on the wall, and that matters. Like, I can call Josh Allen, as we all should, the better quarterback between these two, even if Drake Maye's numbers are better this season, because Josh Allen has been doing it longer and over that time has been doing it much better, as we just detailed, as a passer and as a runner. This season, Drake Maye's been better. It's a very small margin. Josh Allen is going to go to the Hall of Fame one day. The question is, will he get there? This is projection. This is, what do you believe? Not that I know now. Drake Maye could, I don't know, plateau. He could regress. We'll see. There's a lot of football in life to be had, but just where he is right now, the evidence to me suggests that he will be better. And granted, then there's a whole other level of achievement with Mahomes, and you get to Brady and blah, blah, blah. But the quarterback matchup we have Sunday is just so titillating and exciting. And the reason for me, and I'm going to talk about this later this week with Ty Dunn, is I also just sensed in that we're at the beginning of something. And what I mean by that is like a real rivalry again for the Patriots and when the Patriots are good. And of course, that all stems from and revolves around Drake Maye versus Josh Allen. And I wish they didn't get along. I wish they didn't share the same agency. I wish that there was something that wouldn't make either of them smile and just like every woman from the opposite market just fall down because they're both handsome and good. It's just everything about them. They're quarterbacks. They're great. But that's what it is. And I just think the fact that the Bills obviously stripped the Patriots of the division crown and have worn it now for 5 straight years, and the Patriots are about to do it back to them. Drake Maye is not going anywhere. Josh Allen's not going anywhere, which means the Patriots and Bills are going to be stuck here in these battles for years to come for the division title and maybe Super Bowls down the line. And a lot happens and changes quickly in the NFL, but where Drake Maye is in his development and Josh Allen is, I have a hard time seeing either of these franchises fall apart. Maybe for a year here or there. Ask Kansas City. It happens. But not right now. Not where both of them are with the coaching and the infrastructure that they have. I think a real rivalry is on the horizon. What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think these are going to be two teams that are at least going to be at the worst playoff contenders throughout while these guys are there. So it's never going to be something that's meaningless. I don't see them dropping off at all. Even again, like this is the year we could have seen it for the Bills, where the defense was like atrocious for the first couple of weeks of the season. That kind of rebounded, and the offense hasn't been great as a whole too. And this could have been, a Kansas City season where this team is still probably as good as it has been, but just the close wins and being able to pull it out at the end doesn't work. So the fact that this is probably like going to be the Bills' worst season, which probably doesn't help for Pats fans to be thinking about. But the fact that this might be like the worst Bills team and they're still going to be this good, it probably it shows it. And I think the Patriots are still going to get better. They're going to continue to have some cap space, some ability to improve. Like the Pats are not a final product right now, which is, if you were a Pats fan, that's very exciting because, how much better May can get, I think is exciting, but also this isn't a fully maxed out roster in any way. So I think they still have a pathway to get better. And then, you're not really worried about the Jets. The Dolphins can be whatever. So you're not like super worried about the division at the moment. So I think, like this is going to be a fight that we're going to continue to see in the AFC East. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Really quickly before I let you go, because I wrote this Sunday and, we're going to start to ask the questions and some people already have. Okay, who's the team the Patriots don't want to see? And before we get to that, I think it's important to back up and go, look, whatever you think of the Patriots as the team that's tied for the best record in the AFC, has had the number 1 seed on and off, they're all kind of in the same tier. Them, Denver, Buffalo's hanging around. There are other teams here. No one is really pulling away. Houston is now in that conversation. Buffalo is still my answer for the team that if I'm the Patriots, I would least like to see because of who Josh Allen is, and it's 90% just him. Who's the team if you had to pick one for the Patriots? You're like, that's too bad.
I mean, your reasoning is correct where, Josh Allen is the quarterback there. So you still don't want to play that. Like if I had to pick someone else, I honestly probably is Houston. Like it's an offense that's starting to figure it out. And that defense, man, like, if you're playing out in the cold, like you're hosting a game, it's going to be 20 degrees and Will Anderson, Neil Hunter, and Azeez Al-Shaair, and literally every player on that defense is going to hit you as hard as they possibly can. I'm happy like Jalen Petrie is taking his health seriously. He missed some games with a concussion. He has a Guardian hat, but that dude was still out there hitting. on Sunday night. So like he is not taking others' safety into consideration, even though like he is wearing the Guardian. Like that is just a defense that is coming at you as hard and fast, and I wouldn't want to play that at all. But if you're just kind of looking at teams, yeah, it's Buffalo just because of Josh Allen and what he can do. And if you're looking at the AFC right now, like he's really the only guy of that stature who might be in the playoffs, which is crazy to think of.
Simplest way to put it is Josh Allen is the best player in the field.
Yeah.
And the Texas defense is the best unit of any offensive defense, I think, in the AFC. The thing that broke the tie for me, and maybe you disagree, but this is where I'm going with this. If I had to pick, okay, game's tied or you're down by 3. Would I rather Drake Maye face that best unit, in my opinion, the Texans defense, to have to go through them to get a score, which Deontay Lee outlined this, and it's perfect because they play cover 1, they play quarters, they don't blitz, they don't disguise. They just line up and kick your ass because they know they're that good. Would you rather trust Drake Maye to go against that defense and get a score? Or would you rather, if you're the Patriots, trust your defense to stop Josh Allen? I would rather trust Drake Maye in that situation. I would be more fearful of Josh Allen. So that's where I landed on that. You got to go. Tell the people where they can read you, find you. Blue Sky is the starting point, but where does that lead after that?
Yeah, Blue Sky is definitely the best where all the other stuff is going to be. There's going to be some stuff, snaps and stats.ghost.io is where I'll be writing especially more over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully have some YouTube stuff up and a couple more fun things to come after that.
Awesome. Can't wait, man. Great to talk to you. Great to see you. Read Dan, listen to Dan. Now watch Dan on YouTube. You get smarter about football, as I have every time we talk. And I'm sure I'll be bugging you around the playoffs. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Appreciate you, man.
All right. Absolutely. Thanks.